We have Justin Herbert and the Los Angeles Chargers taking on Carson Wentz and the Minnesota Vikings. This is your Week 8, 2025 prediction and preview video. Let's just straight into it with the home team here, the Los Angeles Chargers. After starting out 3-0 on the season, it has been tough sledding over the last couple of weeks for the Chargers. They've lost their last 3 out of 4 games, and they're coming off a tough loss last week against the Indianapolis Colts, 38-24. And for more context here, it's not because the Chargers are just a terrible football team. They are dealing with a lot of injuries right now on the offensive line and the same in the backfield. Joe Alt has missed the last few weeks dealing with a high ankle sprain that he suffered against the New York Giants. Rashawn Slater, he's going to miss his entire season. He went down with a leg injury in training camp. So you have Trey Pipkins at the right tackle position. He's been banged up for majority of this season. In your backfield, Najee Harris, he's missed the last few games dealing with a torn Achilles. He won't play for the rest of the year. He tore his Achilles against the Denver Broncos. And Marion Hampton, he hurt his ankle against the New York Giants in that matchup, and he's currently on IR, and he'll miss this game as well. And we've seen the Chargers struggle on the offensive end to adjust with their offensive coordinator in Greg Roman. Now, against the Miami Dolphins, Kamani Vidal was able to go out there and have a very good game. They gave him a bunch of carries in that matchup, and he had over 120 yards rushing. But last week against the Indianapolis Colts, he only had 9 carries on the day for 20 rushing yards, while Justin Herbert was 37 of 55, 420 rushing yards, 3 passing touchdowns to 2 interceptions. 55 pass attempts in the NFL is just too much for any starting quarterback. And I understand why he had those many passing attempts. You're trying to throw your way back into the matchup here. But you have to come out and stay on schedule and stick to the script if you are Justin Herbert. Even though the offensive line is banged up, these interceptions are not helping the team right now. He's very efficient last year in this system. He's trying to force the football into tight windows. He's trying to be the hero every single drive. You can't do that in this matchup against the Minnesota Vikings, and they will hurt you if you go through that game plan. We're talking about a defense here. 7th in passing defense. They're 17th in rushing defense. But at the beginning of games, when their quarterback's not turning the football over, they have a very good rushing defense. And we've seen that over the last few weeks in certain matchups with the Minnesota Vikings, especially last week against the Philadelphia Eagles with Saquon. More on that when we talk about the Minnesota Vikings and their side of things here. But you have to have a balanced offense. Condense the field. Take those shots underneath with Keenan Allen and the same with Quentin Johnson. I'm not saying shy away from the deep ball in this matchup, but you cannot force the issue. Take what the defense gives you in certain situations and live with that. And we saw Justin Herbert do this in Week 1 and the same in Week 2 against Kansas City and the same against the Las Vegas Raiders. He's went away from that game plan. But you have a lot of playmakers on the perimeter that can help you out in Keenan Allen. The same with Ladd McConkey, Quentin Johnston. You look at Oronde Gaddiskin at the tight end position. He had a very good game last week. He's a big rookie tight end, 7 catches for 164 receiving yards, 1 receiving touchdown. And one of those catches went for 53 yards. Lean on him. Let your playmakers make plays in space and build space for them if you are Greg Roman. Shift the offensive line from the left and to the right and get Justin Herbert off the spot. He is still calling games like they have a very healthy offensive line right now, and they don't. Now, if Joe Alt is able to play in this matchup and he is questionable, you can go out there and you can alter your game plan. But if he's not able to play, still go out there and move around Justin Herbert. Get him outside the pocket on some design rollouts and even play action bootlegs. Even if you're not running the football very well, still run play action. Just give him that space. I know that he's turned his back to the line of scrimmage, but you have to keep the Minnesota Vikings honest here. And this is the key here with the Minnesota Vikings. Brian Flores is known for sending exotic blitzes over and over again, but he's been different this season. You go back to Week 1 against Caleb Williams and the Chicago Bears. For the first 3 quarters, he didn't blitz as much, but in the 4th quarter, he was relentless. Last week against Jalen Hurts and the Philadelphia Eagles, he blitzed, but it was at very interesting times in that matchup that he'll send a blitz. It may come on first down. It may come late in the matchup, so be on lookout for that. And that's up to Justin Herbert. He's a veteran quarterback now to recognize the blitz, shift the offensive line protection. And if it is first down, just throw the football into the ground if no one is open. But take those shots underneath and find where the blitzer is coming from. If the wide receiver is there, just get the football to him immediately. Get the football out quick in this matchup. And when you look at the pass rushers that they have, Andrew Van Ginkel, he's a do-it-all linebacker. He's questionable for this matchup. We know that he could take the football away with interceptions. He could force fumbles. They can also rush the passer on the outside. And they have Dallas Turner, who is in year 2. There's a lot of upside for Dallas Turner. Jonathan Gennard, you can say that he is their best pass rusher. Be on lookout for those players in this front seven. They can come from many different angles. And they need more from Bradley in this matchup. Now, Bradley is not a good interior offensive lineman. But if he can go out there and help recognize the blitz with Justin Herbert, he can have that connection. That can go a long way in this matchup for the Los Angeles Chargers. But you have to stay on schedule in this game and do not put your defense behind the 8 ball because of all the injuries that you have on the offensive end right now. Lean more so into the quick game. Take those deep shots down the field if they are there, but lean on Keenan Allen and the same with a Rondé at the tight end position. And the reason why I bring up Keenan Allen, he's one of the best possession wide receivers in the NFL. And he is still one of the best route runners. Those one-on-one situations, you go to him. You trust him. Ladd McConkey inside the slot, we know that he's a very talented wide receiver. But in those tight situations, I will look for Justin Herbert to go to Keenan Allen because they have a good rapport. Those early days with Justin Herbert, those first couple of years there, that's who he leaned on the most. It was him, and it was also the same with Mike Williams. So that's why you're seeing Keenan Allen go out there and lead the team in targets up to this point in time in the season. But don't force the issue if you are Justin Herbert. And hopefully Joe Alt will be able to play in this matchup. Now look at the defense here with the Los Angeles Chargers. They're not a bad unit. And Jesse Minter is not a bad defensive coordinator. But you have to go out there and you have to switch up your looks here. They play with a lot of light boxes. They don't want to give up the deep shots down the field. But what quarterbacks are doing now, they're killing you underneath. Look at what Jaden Daniels did a few weeks ago. Underneath shots to Deebo Samuel. Taking those screen passes over and over again. You're playing that 3 high safety look because you don't want to give up the deep ball. That works against quarterbacks like Geno Smith. That'll work against Patrick Mahomes when he's looking for a deep ball over and over again. But now they're figuring out your defense. Go to a more standard defense in this matchup and don't have those ladder boxes. And we saw them go to a different look last week against the Indianapolis Colts because they gave up a lot of rushing touchdowns to Jonathan Taylor. You have to put some more linebackers inside the box there. I know that Jesse Minter is not known for doing that, even dating back to his days at Michigan when he was the defensive coordinator underneath Coach Harbaugh. But you have to go with different looks here. Kevin O'Connell is one of the best offensive minds in the game. And Carson Wentz, he would dink and dunk his way down the field in certain situations to Justin Jefferson, and the same with TJ at the tight end position. You want to play off coverage against Jordan Addison and the same with Justin Jefferson, but do not let TJ get those easy yards underneath. He can break 2 to 3 tackles, and he has a lot of speed in the open field for a tight end. Before he tore his ACL a few years back, he was one of the best receiving tight ends in football, and he still has that ability. You have to be careful here. But the pass rushers, they look very good. Tully has 5 sacks on the season. Right now, he is their best pass rusher. Khalil Mack was able to return last week from that elbow injury, and he looked very good. You need them to get after the passer over and over again in this matchup and force Carson Wentz to go out there and have those turnover mistakes. And this is how I look at Carson Wentz. He'll go out there and he'll make some throws and make you scratch your head and say, okay, I understand why the Philadelphia Eagles took him in the first round. Then he'll come back the next drive and make a boneheaded play. Take advantage of those plays. If you can come away with some massive takeaways in this matchup, that will help you out on the offensive end. And we've seen the Chargers do this in the past to a quarterback like Geno Smith. So we know that they're capable of going out there and causing a lot of problems on the back end. But the one thing that I am worried about is their front seven. Not because of bad talent here. It's mostly because of the coaching with Jesse Minter. And he gives up a lot of rushing yardage to quarterbacks. They're a top 3 team in terms of giving up rushing yards to quarterbacks here. And Carson Wentz had 2 long scrambles last week against the Philadelphia Eagles. He can move with his legs. You may not think Carson Wentz is the ultimate athlete, but he can get out of the jam in certain situations, and he can get 10 to 15 yards. He can run out of bounds. Those could be back-breaking plays for the Los Angeles Chargers, especially if it is 3rd and long. And that was the case last week for the Philadelphia Eagles, even though the Minnesota Vikings lost that matchup. But you have to have more bodies inside the box here. Henley is a very good linebacker. Denzel Perryman, he's solid. They need to be better in this matchup against the run with Jordan Mason. Because the one thing that we know about Kevin O'Connell, he will not shy away from the run game. And this is the offensive line for the Minnesota Vikings. They're getting healthier right now. They have Will Fries at the right guard position. He's one of the best right guards in the game. They have Donovan Jackson, who is a tremendous rookie at the left guard position. They can get a push up front. But the center position, Ryan Kelly, he is still on IR. Now you can run a bunch of quick game on that center position and test them out in the interior. Push the offensive line back towards Carson Wentz, and you have the contained coverage on the outside with Khalil Mack and the same with Thule. And we've seen the Chargers defense do this before in the past. They did this against Jaden Daniels and the Washington Commanders, but no Khalil Mack. And they came away with a couple of good plays in the first half. But in the second half, they weren't able to get those plays. They need to be more consistent on the defensive end. And that comes down to the players here. But I look at the 3 safety look. It could help you out, even though I said a lot of negative things about this. If they go into a shotgun situation and Carson Wentz gets frustrated and you can rotate those safeties over, you could walk away with a bunch of pass deflections or even interceptions in this matchup. And this is what the Steelers did against Carson Wentz in that overseas game early on. They gave him a bunch of disguised coverages on the back end. He had no idea what the hell they were doing. They came out in the cover 3 look, but it was actually cover 2. And we know that Jesse Mentor, he would like to play with your head in that situation, especially if you are a quarterback like Carson Wentz, who is a gunslinger. He loves to go out there and he loves to take those deep shots down the field. So beware of Justin Jefferson and the same with Jordan Addison in that aspect. But I'm very concerned about TJ and those underneath routes because we've seen the Chargers give up a bunch of underneath passes in the past. And Dante Jackson started out red hot on the season. Can he actually step up in this matchup? This is going to be the biggest test for him at this point in time in the season, being matched up with Justin Jefferson and the same with Jordan Addison. Elijah Molden is questionable for this matchup, but you have Derwin James, who is one of the best safeties in the NFL, and you have Cam Hart. As long as Benjamin St. Juste is not in the field, you should be fine on the back end in terms of not giving up those consistent deep plays down the field over and over again. Let's take a break from today's action, and let's talk about today's sponsor, DraftKings. With the MLB playoffs going on right now, we have the NBA regular season that just tipped off this week, and the NFL season is still going on. And we have the WNBA playoffs. You can win big with your favorite teams on and off the field, on and off the court. For new customers, you bet $5, you'll get $300 back in bonus bets if your bet wins. And if you are a massive NBA fan, you will also get 3 months of NBA League Pass. You can watch your favorite teams whenever you want with a click of a button. It's that simple. And you can use the bonus bets with same game parlays to even have a bigger chance at a bigger payout. All you have to do is use code ALLPRO in all caps, ALLPRO. You bet $5 if you're a new customer, you get $300 back in bonus bets. And once again, I want to thank DraftKings for sponsoring this video. Let's get back to the action. Now let's talk about Carson Wentz and the Minnesota Vikings. It has been a huge roller coaster ride since Carson Wentz has been the starting quarterback with the Minnesota Vikings. They're still waiting for J.J. McCarthy to come back from that ankle injury that he suffered against the Atlanta Falcons, and he will not be able to play in this matchup. But the first game that we got to see Carson Wentz be a starter this season for the Vikings came against the Cincinnati Bengals. They won that matchup 48-10. Now, granted, the defense balled out in the same with special teams, but Carson Wentz had a very good game, 14-20, 173 passing yards, 2 passing touchdowns, 0 interceptions, only got sacked 3 times. The next week against the Steelers, overseas game, 30-46, 350 passing yards, 2 passing touchdowns, 2 interceptions. He got sacked 3 times. The next week against the Cleveland Browns, 25-34, 236 passing yards, 1 passing touchdown, 0 interceptions. They need him to be more consistent in this matchup against the Minnesota Vikings because his loss last week against the Philadelphia Eagles, you lost his game 28-22. Carson Wentz, 0 passing touchdowns, 2 interceptions. He's trying to force the issue down the field. And he was 26-42 on the day for 313 passing yards. You get good Carson Wentz, you get bad Carson Wentz. He will have moments in games to where you may say, hey, he can have that Sam Darnold type of redemption arc. A former first-round pick, had a lot of success with the Philadelphia Eagles. They pushed him out the door. He's bounced around the NFL. And he's had a couple of drives against the Steelers, the same against the Bengals, that make you say, okay, Carson Wentz could be a starter in this league. Then he comes out the next play. He may throw a dumb interception. They just need him to be more consistent. And that does come down to the game plan with Kevin O'Connell as well. Condense the field, similar to Justin Herbert here. Both these guys are gunslingers. They love to throw the football deep down the field and get those big plays, but just take what the defense gives you underneath. The game plan that Kevin O'Connell had against the Cleveland Browns was phenomenal. A bunch of short routes underneath with Justin Jefferson, and the same with Jordan Addison and TJ. And this is a Chargers defense. They play a lot of high coverage. That's why they're 8th in passing defense right now. They can go out there and they can put a lot of stress on your receivers if they run deep routes over and over again. And they rotate those safeties and they rotate those corners over. So you think a guy's playing in the safety position, the corner rotates over. Now the safety calms down because of the versatility with Derwin James. He's basically a hybrid linebacker for them. And that's been the case from last season and this season. Be on lookout with Derwin James. If he's playing inside the box, it doesn't mean that he's guarding a tight end every single time. He may rotate over and now he's playing further back on a wide receiver that may be running an end cut. And he can come away with an interception. And we've seen Derwin James do this before in the past. But Derwin James, even though he's a very good tackler, very good defender, you should be able to run the football on this Chargers defense. And this is what the Colts did last week with Jonathan Taylor. And I'm not saying that Jordan Mason is Jonathan Taylor. But this offensive line is healthier now against the Steelers. Not every interception was on Carson Wentz. You had a banged up offensive line, similar to the Chargers here. But Will Fries, he's back. Brian O'Neill, he's questionable. And you have one of the best left tackles in the game. And Christian, lean on this run game and work off of play action. Jordan Mason has the juice coming out of the backfield. Not having Aaron Jones over the last couple weeks has definitely hurt this team. He's a very good running back. He's tough and he's physical. But Jordan Mason has the speed in the open space. Lean on him early on in this matchup and force the Chargers out of that 3 safety look. Jordan Mason had 15 carries for 57 rushing yards last week, 4 yards a carry, 1 rushing touchdown. And this is a Chargers defense. They're 18th in rushing. And if I'm Carson Wentz, I'll take off with the football as well. Even though he had a fumble that he lost last week. But 4 carries, 28 rushing yards. And I'm not saying that he's going to go out there and run around like Josh Allen and Lamar Jackson. But if no one is inside the box, even if it is just one defender, trust your legs. Get some yards there. Get 3 to 4 yards. Now we're talking about being in 3rd and 3, 3rd and 4, instead of being in 3rd and 10. Those little yards can matter in this matchup against the Chargers. And you force them out of that look. You force them out of that 3 safety look. Now you can have one-on-one coverage on the outside with Justin Jefferson and the same with Jordan Addison. And speaking of these wide receivers, Jordan Addison had 9 catches for 128 receiving yards last week. He's been a very good wide receiver this season since he came back from that 3-game suspension. Justin Jefferson, 5 catches, 79 receiving yards. But this is the key here with Justin Jefferson. On 3rd down, he's one of the best wide receivers in the game. In my opinion, he's the best wide receiver in general when he has very good and consistent quarterback play. And you have TJ, 6 catches, 43 receiving yards. But you go out there and you test out that light box of the Chargers. Whether it's throwing to your tight end or those end breakers underneath. Throwing slant routes to Justin Jefferson. But be physical up front with this offensive line. It's the reason why you drafted Donovan Jackson in the 1st round. And it's the reason why you brought in Will Fries to the right guard position. Unfortunately, Ryan Kelly has missed the last couple weeks dealing with a concussion. He's still in IR. I am concerned about Ryan Kelly. But we'll touch on that in a different video about the Minnesota Vikings later on this week. But if you can get physical with the Chargers up front, lean on that run game. It should make life easier for Carson Wentz, but he has to do a better job of taking care of the football. That's simple. And when I look at the defense here for the Minnesota Vikings, Brian Flores is one of the best defensive coordinators in the game. They're 17th in rushing defense, but it's not all on Brian Flores. And your quarterback is throwing interceptions constantly, and it's 3 and out in certain situations. Your defense is getting tired. So in the 1st and 2nd quarter, they're not giving up those many rushing yards. But as the game goes on, they're starting to get gashed by the run because they are tired. This is where the offense needs to help out the defense here. But at the same time, if you blitz in this matchup against Justin Herbert, he may make you pay. It depends on where you want to blitz in this matchup. Personally, if I'm Brian Flores, I'm running a bunch of twists and I'm running a bunch of stunts over and over again at Bradley. A bunch of quick game. Make him have to think quick and make him have to think very fast. And hopefully you can get one of those guards to go in and have miscommunication. Now you have a free rusher in someone like Andrew Van Ginkel or even Jonathan Grenard. And I would rush Jonathan Grenard from the interior of this offensive line. And it could free up space on the outside for someone like Dallas Turner. But you want to overwhelm this offensive line constantly. and take away that run game. You want to force Justin Herbert to have 35 plus pass attempts in this matchup. Not because he's a bad player. Justin Herbert, we've seen him carry this team on his back in a bunch of matchups early on in his career, when he had Anthony Lynn as a head coach, and the same with Brandon Staley. But this can be said for every single quarterback in this league. The more times that you put the football in the air, the secondary has a very good chance to come down with the football. If you have 35 pass attempts in the matchup, you're hoping for a wide receiver drop or miscommunication with the wide receiver and the quarterback. And this is a very aggressive defense with the Minnesota Vikings. But like I mentioned before, Brian Flores has been very plotting in terms of when he wants to blitz and when he wants to send that blitz in. But you know it's going to eventually happen sooner than later. You have Javon Hargrave in this matchup. Javon Hargrave is not the same player that he once was with the Steelers, and the same with the Philadelphia Eagles. He's dealt with injuries over the last couple of years, but he is still a very good run stopper. And be on lookout for Vidal, the running back coming out of the backfield for the Chargers. Had a very good game against the Miami Dolphins. He can gash you in open space if you're not careful. But that's why you have Blake Cashman at the linebacker position, and the same with Eric Wilson. Ivan Pace Jr. has not done much this season, surprisingly. Does have 23 solo tackles, but last week didn't do much. Be on lookout for him in this matchup. He could be a player that comes out of nowhere and he can give you a lot of problems. But I was very shocked not to see him on the field on the defensive end as much last week. Isaiah Rodgers started the season off very strong, had that great game against Cincinnati Bengals. He gave up a lot of deep bomb plays last week to A.J. Brown, and the same with Devontae Smith. They need him to step up in this matchup, and this is a tough assignment for him. You have Quentin Johnson on the outside, the same with Keenan Allen, the same with Ladd McConkey. And I still think that Isaiah Rodgers is a very good football player. He's just having tough assignments every single week, and that's usually how things go in the NFL. These are some of the best players in the world. That's just how it goes. But they need more out of him in this matchup. You look at Byron Murphy Jr. Byron Murphy Jr. has been solid this season. Hasn't had the same impact that he had last year, but he is still a very solid cornerback to have. You have Josh Metellus on the back end of this defense with Harrison Smith. Harrison Smith has never had a bad season in his career. The man is in his late 30s and he's still moving around like he's 21, 22 years old. You're solid there. But you need to get physical up front. Send in that blitz and be very unpredictable with that blitz towards the Chargers, and you should be fine in this game. It really comes down to this right here with the Minnesota Vikings. If Carson Wentz can go out there and look like how he looked against the Bengals, and the same against the Cleveland Browns, especially that last drive with the Browns, you'll be in good shape. And with the injuries that the Chargers have, this could be an upset with the Minnesota Vikings. These are two teams right now. They've been dealing with injuries over the course of this season, which sucks because coming into the year, talented rosters. They had a lot of hype behind them. The same with the Minnesota Vikings with J.J. McCarthy. Could he be this next upcoming quarterback in this league? We haven't seen much of him this year, unfortunately. And with the Chargers, the potential with Najee Harris and the same with Omarion Hampton, we just didn't get to see it this year, especially with Najee Harris. But with all that being said, I am going to take the Los Angeles Chargers to win this matchup. It's going to be a nasty and a physical game. And I have the Chargers win this game 24-23. I just trust Justin Herbert right now more than Carson Wentz, but it can go either way. But let me know in the comment section below, who are you taking in this matchup, the Los Angeles Chargers or the Minnesota Vikings? If you're new to the channel, hit the subscribe button. If you like the video, hit the like button. Most importantly, want each and every last one of you guys stay safe, stay positive. Thanks for the video, guys. God bless.